from the Camel Trail in Cornwall. Welcome to the GCN Show!
Welcome to the GCN Show.
Coming up this week, can we believe in the performances we've just witnessed at the Tour de France? We believe so, and we'll let you know why.
We're also going to look at some brand new kit, the world's biggest cycle touring event, the Tour de McDonald's, plus you can win a bike.
Yeah, and a blooming good one too.
This week in the world of cycling, we learned that Jonas Vingegaard has won the Tour de France, getting the edge over arch nemesis Tadej Pogačar in what for 2 weeks was a knife-edge battle.
It was, however, Pogačar cracked in the final week and hemorrhaged time on 2 decisive stages, although he then did get one more stage win. So it wasn't a total disaster, was it?
No, but that's the least he's ever won in a single Grand Tour.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's won 3 in every one up to that point.
Oh.
I did like the headline on Reuters though, ice beats fire. It does feel a bit like that with those two, doesn't it?
It does, it totally does. That kind of difference is what all good rivalries are made of, so long may it continue. We also learned this week that were Dan to go pro again, he would ride for FDJ. Why? Because the boss of Jumbo-Visma called them all out for drinking large beers on a rest day. Perfect for Dan, not so good for winning the Tour.
No, doesn't sound like it, does it? That's probably where I was going wrong all those years.
Yeah, probably was, just that. How many large beers did you drink on the Tour de France rest days?
7 or 8.
Did you actually?
No, yeah, that was last couple of weeks.
Oh, I see.
Whilst commentating.
In 2010?
I'm not sure I would have had any beers.
Really? No wonder you weren't feeling right by the end of the tour.
No, maybe that was my problem.
That was the problem, yeah.
Anyway, we also learned this week that the Tour de France fam is off to a cracking start. So as we film this, only one stage has finished. The GC riders have already been in the mix, but Lotte Kopecky stole the sprinters' thunder with a solo win on day 1.
She did. Manon is out there at the moment, so check out her hot tech video over on GCN Tech now. And also see her on the live coverage too over on GCN Plus. Now finally, we also learned this week that the eye-wateringly high estimated power numbers from the men's Tour de France this year are being called out for their inaccuracies by someone who really should know.
Yes, by Professor Inigo San Millan, Tadej Pogačar's coach, and of course Sai's new man crush.
What?
Feels that way.
Well,
anyway, he said that the power values that are often quoted online are wrong by as much as 30 to 40 watts.
Wowzers. Right, if true, then some of those incredible numbers, like Vingegaard doing 7+ watts per kilo for upwards of 15 minutes, would definitely be tempered down. However, power data is only one side, the speed is the other side, and as we've seen, records on climbs this year have been absolutely tumbling.
They have. Now for many fans, particularly those that lived through the Armstrong era and the mid-90s before that, this increase in speed is making for uncomfortable viewing, isn't it?
Yeah, what's the phrase? Once bitten, twice shy?
Exactly that, yes. And that's totally fair. If you've seen unbelievable performances before that are then proven to be unbelievable, then you've got a certain eye for it, haven't you?
Yeah, and let's face it, this year we have seen some unbelievable performances, but are they unbelievable in the literal sense?
Well, firstly, we have to say that we don't know, really, don't we? No one except the riders themselves really know whether they're clean or not. But the following points are how we feel that the current performances are understandable and therefore just enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, so firstly, we have said this before, and we are going to say it again, there have been some seismic improvements in performance that have come through a deeper understanding of science and tech. So like nutrition, right? So Connor and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. The amount of carbohydrates riders are taking on in stages now is revolutionary to even just, 5 years ago?
Yeah, and especially if you go back further than that. I mean, Marco Pantani probably didn't eat or drink very much at all in comparison. Why would you? When you have enough red blood cells, not just for one cyclist, but for an entire team.
That's right. Marco, would you like a sandwich? No thanks, I'll just have some more EPO with a little bit of growth hormone on the side, please.
And what about the tech? Well, we all know how much faster modern bikes are, even though not everybody wants to hear that. But aero is a thing. So too are fancy bearings, chain wax, fast tyres, etc. Aero clothing is light years ahead of the baggy stuff that you see the riders from the 2000s and earlier wear. Plus, it's also keeping the riders cooler.
Yeah, so this is, not many people have talked about this, okay, but it used to be that everyone wore a vest under their cycling jersey for safety, in case you fell off, you got less road rash, and apparently it kept you cooler, which in hindsight is totally bonkers. Yeah, that's right. I mean, the safety thing is legit, I understand that, but overheating was a massive issue, but we didn't realise we were overheating.
No, and I would add to the technology side that there has been a massive culture shift within the sport. The no needles policy, which I think was brought in 2011, was massive in my opinion, because before that, I personally was used to receiving daily intravenous injections of legal products during stage races.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think pretty much every ride. And there were very, very few that said no to that because it was within the rules at the time.
Yeah.
And you were basically told that in order to get through a Grand Tour, you would have to have that. But then it makes sense, doesn't it, that when you ban it and no one's allowed to do that anymore, you can get through a Grand Tour without doing it.
Yeah. God, that really takes me by surprise, actually. But completely, as you say, completely understandable because that was it. I mean, I hate to say it, though, Dan. That is literally now half a lifetime ago.
It's a long time
for
ago.
quite a lot of the current pro peloton. This is your reminder that Tadej Pogačar was less than a year old when Lance Armstrong won his first Tour de France. And I actually remember a year or so ago when Pogačar was asked about doping, he answered that he had never tested positive, which, again, to older fans is a real trigger because it was an infamous Lance Armstrong answer. But then really, how would Tadej Pogačar have known that that was an infamous Lance Armstrong answer when he was still in kindergarten when he said it?
Well, exactly. Yeah, there is that. Now, cycling will always have this spectre of doping hanging over it, and it only has itself to blame, really, for that. But I think it's fair also to think that a culture shift is just as possible. I was reading a post on Reddit just last week, actually, and it was calling out a product called colostrum and speculating as to whether it could be the part of Vingegaard's success at the Tour de France this year and before. And it points to a study that was done over 20 years ago by Jumbo-Visma's medical manager Peter Verstappen, and the sponsor of Vingegaard's amateur team was Coloquick, a company who claimed to have the best complete colostrum management system on the market.
Right, well, I mean, we should make it clear that colostrum is a natural product. So it's apparently the first form of milk released by the mammary glands after giving birth. And it is not on the WADA list of banned substances, but they actually, interestingly, recommend that athletes don't take it because it can contain certain IGF-1 and other growth factors which are prohibited and which can then apparently influence anti-doping controls.
But while studies have shown that it could be of benefit to athletes, it's not a miracle drug. Because I also took that myself in 2003 and I wasn't exactly setting the world on fire back then. And before you say it, I wasn't setting the world on fire any time after that either. But it was an entirely legal product that I haven't heard of for 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it might explain why you have such a fine physique even now, I guess. But yeah, I mean, because it's not like 2003. It is not new, colostrum, is it?
No,
it's one of those things where, like creatine, people used to take a little bit and then decided that actually it wasn't really worth the hassle.
Exactly.
But anyway, there we go. You might be wondering about motor doping as well, because that's gone a little bit quiet in recent years, hasn't it? Frankly, if I'm honest, I am still waiting for the groundbreaking micro motors and batteries that can be completely hidden from view.
Yeah.
I think we all are, aren't we?
Well, I mean, if you own the intellectual property on micromotors, then I'd say you should probably be talking to companies like Porsche who are buying into that market right now, rather than pro cycling team if you want to make the most money.
Well, that's it. Money talks, right? And I suspect the automotive industry is therefore quite a bit louder in the conversation than World Tour teams, right? I mean, I know who I'd flog. An amazing invention too.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, I'd love to retire soon if I invented something amazing. I'd be trying to get the most money for it possible.
That's right. Okay, in conclusion then, and to reiterate, none of us can know who is competing clean. None of us can know if anyone is cheating. The only people who do know 100% what an individual is or isn't doing is that individual themselves. And the problem is now that it's not impossible to prove that you're clean, isn't it?
What can you do, really? Plus, anything that they do say, like you said, Si, has already been said in the past by people who later admitted to or were proven to be doping. I'm tested regularly. I've never tested positive. You can believe in my performances, etc., etc. And a large portion of cycling fans have been stung, really hurt in the past. Something they believed in at the time turned out to be a big fat lie. So you can understand that those who continue to watch the sport do so with a large degree of suspicion and scepticism.
Yeah, but that scepticism, the asking of questions, can only be healthy for the sport. If nobody's asking tough questions online or in press conferences, the chance of the sport returning to its darker days is far greater. But equally, I think it would be irresponsible to start accusing people of doping where there isn't any evidence to speak of whatsoever.
Not accusing, but again, just asking the hard questions in press conferences. I do feel sorry for the current crop of riders in many respects, because if they are clean, and I personally have no reason to believe that they are not, they are basically answering for a previous generation. But I'm still glad that they are doing that, because I do worry that it might go back to what it was before. I don't think it would ever be quite the same thing, but wherever there's money to be made, either through prize money or salaries, there are always going to be people who think about cheating. But I do believe the culture has changed that much from when I first got into it to where it is now, that the temptation to cheat is nowhere near as much as it used to be, even with the money.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on, couldn't we? Because there are other factors as well that help to explain these faster speeds, like the fact that the stages are far shorter. You know, Marco Pantani is racing 250 kilometres with no food or water.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a real red herring, the average speed of stages. And in fact, in commentary during the Tour de France, I asked Sean Kelly to talk us through how things were done back in his era. And he was saying that whoever was the patron at the time, in his era, it was Bernard Hinault. If he said no attacking for the first 80 kilometres, nobody would attack. And if they dared do so, he would ride up to them and basically say, you're never going to win another race in your life unless you come back to the peloton. We'll race when I'm going to tell you to race. So looking at the average speed from start to finish of any race, really, is bonkers. You know, unless you're comparing like to like from the point at which there are attacks from kilometre zero.
Yeah. Oh, and even in isolated chunks, like times up climbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I say, we could go on and on and on about this one, but we also really want to know your thoughts about this case. So get involved in the comments section down below. Are there any other factors that we've missed that you feel are really important to explain why riders are going faster these days? Or are you part of that generation that's been burned and actually you're still looking for answers and for proof? Get involved in the comments section down below.
Time now for hack/bodge of the week, and we are going to start with this one from a guy called Killian Kelly.
Who's that?
Resident cycling statistician who works on the App team and who has cleverly tricked the algorithm into putting his post front of view. So it was the first thing that we saw.
Killian.
Anyway, this is his hack or his bodge. I mean, I've got no idea even what's going on.
Well, I mean, you're always prepared, aren't you? In fact, as Killian says in his post, it can never be too prepared. So both mountain bike cleats and also road cleats as well. The only thing I can say is that were you to use those road cleats, you would end up with calves the size of...
Yeah, I'm thinking of using them.
Yeah, no, I like that. Very, very amusing, Killian. We've actually, for Killian and for other similarly confused individuals, we've got a video going out on Wednesday, which is mountain bike versus road pedals. So why you should use which type and when. So there you go. So Killian, you will no longer need to be prepared.
Well, you could just use both. I voted bodge on the app for that
Is
one.
this you? Just because you don't want Killian to get a hack?
No.
I mean, I can't see past it being a joke, but I mean, if this were real life, then yes, that is a massive bodge.
It's just a bodge of a joke as well, isn't it? Well, 88% voted that one a bodge.
Right, Killian, get back to your stats. Go on, be off with you. Right then, next up, we got this one from Conrad Kowara. No Garmin mount? No problem. Broke my handlebars on my own bike while on holiday, and the rental did not have a Garmin mount. I didn't even think to ask at the rental place. I assumed it would come with it. So anyway, bit of gaffer tape on the old top tube. Now, I'm slightly shamefaced to admit that when Hank and I were in Nepal for GCN Plus, I couldn't get my Wahoo mount on my bike. So actually, I put the Wahoo in a similar place.
Did you? Why didn't you just put it in your pocket? Oh, because you needed to see it.
I needed to see it,
navigation purposes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this is a hack. I think that's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, my one question with this is that your handlebars broke, but presumably your Garmin mount didn't. I don't know how far the rental place was from where your bike was at the time, but it should have been an easy fix, surely, to go back and just use the Garmin map.
Well, that's true in this day and age, Dan, of proprietary handlebars and proprietary mounts.
Well, either way, I'm going Bodge.
Yeah, it is a bodge, isn't it? It's a massive bodge. And 84% of you lot thought that was a bodge as well.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Right, next up, this one comes in from Yorick82. Lunchtime Zwift training session. Working full-time in the Middle East, in the middle of the desert, shall I say, and having 2 young children, I don't get a lot of time to ride. However, I get a 2-hour-long lunch break. It's 45 degrees out. Roads around here are horrible and have soft sand shoulders, plus drivers are the worst I've seen. So I plug in my trainer to my car and I'm able to get a solid, safe, albeit hot Zwift session in. I get odd looks, but I'd rather have that than no riding at all.
Oh my word.
This is already giving me nightmares. The prospects of riding a static trainer in 45-degree heat outside.
That is utterly incredible commitment. I'm in awe of that. I mean, I too would go stir crazy, but that's next level.
No, but I always remember when Lassie and I, many years ago, went to Abu Dhabi, and we arrived at the Jebel Hafit climb at the foot of it. And as we got out of the car said 46 degrees on it, and I didn't believe it. I just thought it was measuring the engine temperature or something. And as I got out of the car, I was like, oh my word, this is like an oven. I'd never experienced anything like it before, and I don't really want to again, especially the part where we then had to climb up Jebel Hafit, which I'm imagining would be not dissimilar because there wasn't much air blowing, we were going
Not
very
your
slow.
speed, yeah.
No. even on the descent though. It was like I was getting hotter, like a hairdryer.
Oh my goodness.
So this is sort of me reliving those nightmares, thinking about this home trainer outside there.
Well, I'm going to vote hack.
Well, I'll go hack as well, because I understand the sort of the mental aspect of it and just wanting to be able to do a ride. But I personally, the thought of doing it horrifies me.
Yeah, all credit to you, Joe. That's amazing. 87% of you lot thought that was a hack as well. So a lot of people, I think, appreciate your commitment. That's amazing. Right, next up, we've got this one from Alcan Brad. Sealant funnel. Having always been annoyed at the mess resulting from sealant bubbling out of the valve when injecting it,
I took inspiration from disc brake bleed kits and designed and 3D printed a small funnel that threads directly onto the stem. Works great and no mess.
well, that is an important bit of information because it's 3D printed, therefore it's a hack. 3D printed funnel, that is next level. That is brilliant, actually.
I'm going to let you judge this one because I don't know much about putting tyres on with sealant, etc.
Well, I mean, personally, I would inject it in a position like, so you'd have the valve at like 90 degrees or maybe like 100 degrees. So then you inject it and then it all runs down inside the tyre. So then when you pull the injector out, it doesn't spray everywhere. I can't imagine gravity alone would drip your sealant into the valve.
Oh, really? Too gloopy?
Well, I mean, I guess it works, right? Because they're doing it. But personally, I don't feel the need.
Okay.
But it's a 3D printed solution to a problem that may or may not exist, and therefore I think that's probably a hack.
Well, I initially thought it was a hack, and then after your explanation, I've decided it's a bodge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really sorry about that then.
But 92% of you at home voted that one a hack, so well done to Alcan Brad. Thanks for all your submissions. A reminder that you can get involved in the show by submitting your hacks and bodges over on the GCN app.
And now it's time for cycling shorts.
Cycling shorts now, and we're going to start with the news that Jonas Vingegaard is celebrating his second Tour de France win by going on a 3-week vacation around France.
Otherwise known as the Vuelta a España.
Cycle touring.
Yes. Now, apparently this was part of the team's plan since last November, but the announcement was made on the morning of the final stage of the Tour de France. Music to the ears of many cycling fans, but probably not to the likes of Remco Evenepoel and Geraint Thomas, who now need to figure out how they beat both Roglic and Vingegaard in the same team.
Large beers.
Yes.
My money's on Geraint Thomas if large beers come into the equation.
Well, I mean, that was what the Tour of Spain used to be like.
Yes, it did, didn't
Quite a
it?
few riders thrown off the Tour of Spain for partying.
Andy Schleck and Stuart O'Grady, the last pair. Amazing. That is another era, isn't it? Let's face it. Right, sticking with racing, Canyon SRAM, who have long been at the forefront of cool kit designs, have changed their regular jersey for this for the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift, with a nod to Zwift's Watch the Fam campaign.
Yep, the bikes have also been given a new paint job, haven't they, to match it? And there's no doubt it stands out from the crowd. For me, this is one of those kits that I love, but that I wouldn't wear myself, and that I wouldn't think anybody would like to see me wearing either.
No, I don't think we would,
No.
quite frankly. I imagine this person might, though, as in might want to see you in it. Carol Thompson, aka the Cadence Cat on the GCN app. She's created her very own Connor Dunn with whom to watch the Tour de France.
Brilliant. Although terrifying as well. Brilliant and terrifying in equal measure, I think.
Yeah.
What do we think the scale of that looks like, though? Because height-wise, it looks more like Hank than Connor to me.
It does indeed, yeah. Yeah. Also a little bit bulkier than Connor as well, so it's definitely a Hank. We should probably move on.
Well, just before we do, actually, and going back to the Tour de France Femme, I wanted to let you all know, something that I forgot to mention earlier, is that we've teamed up with the Life Plus Wahoo team again this year, and their hashtag Embrace Every Moment campaign. And this is to offer something really special to those of you who are living in the UK. So if you'd like more details on what that is, head over to lifepluswahoo.com/embraceeverymoment, and I promise it will be worth your while.
It sounds very intriguing.
Secretive
Dan.
almost.
Very secretive, yeah, there we go. Okay, last week, Orbea launched the latest generation of the Orca, which is their classic road bike. Now, they have backpedaled, pun very much intended,
Very good.
on aero. Instead, they're focusing on creating the ultimate climbing bike, which is all about low weight and high stiffness.
And judging by the comments underneath the video that you did, Si, that's the right combination for you lot, isn't it? I should just drag up a few of those comments
Yeah.
right now. There was a lot of people that liked the fact that they were going over to the aero bike
Well,
rather
yeah.
than making it more aero, lower rolling resistance.
That's right. And even to the
whatever
point
else.
where, like, often a new bike is released and there's a lot of people say, I absolutely love it, I absolutely love it. But there's always an element of, like, discord in the comments. People are like, I don't like this. But it was almost unanimous how much
Well, there's a
people
few
loved it.
examples just here. Blue Mystic 7501, but I'll always be a fan of lightweight bikes. I love how responsive they feel when you're climbing.
True.
Tyke Alarm 988, it looks absolutely amazing, and its weight of only 6.6 kilos is mind-boggling. Personally, I really like the aspect of rapid acceleration due to the low weight and design. Dunlop guy said, I must say, this is a breath of fresh air compared to all the new releases that we've been seeing. Well done, Orbea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really is. They must be absolutely delighted. Imagine that. You spend like 2 or 3 years working on something behind the scenes, and then it comes out and everyone's like, that's great. You'd be like, oh, high fives all round, really.
Exactly.
What's also very cool, I mean, really very cool, is that Orbea are actually giving one of their new bikes away, a top-of-the-range Dura-Ace equipped M10 Limited with a power meter as well, in your choice of size, and customised by you using their Mayo customization program.
Quite the prize, that,
Yeah.
isn't it? And if you'd like to enter, just click on the link that you will find in the description below this video.
Yeah, although territory restrictions do apply, I'm afraid. And we're really sorry about that, okay? I actually didn't know that there were territory restrictions when filming that first look video, so apologies if I misled anyone there. It was definitely not my intention to do so.
Anyway, what else has been going on in the cycling world? Well, it feels like the Tour de France have rather been taking over the headlines and the airwaves, but 30,000 people are currently taking part in the world's biggest cycling touring event, RAGBRAI.
And what is RAGBRAI?
What is RAGBRAI?
Well, yeah, I did hear that. Registers annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa, which is apparently more than just a bike ride. It is an epic 8-day rolling festival of bicycles, music, food, camaraderie, and community. It is the oldest, largest, and longest multi-day bicycle touring event in the world.
I mean, this sounds fantastic.
It does, doesn't it, actually? Genuinely, it's cool. Yeah, I mean, what more can you say? 30,000 people cruising across Iowa having a party for 8 days.
Yeah, fantastic.
There you go. What about this one, though? If you think that you like the sound of that. The Tour de McDonald's.
Oh, what's all this about?
Well, it is not the latest attempt at sport washing by a large multinational, but 2 riders' attempt at breathing some new life into old roads.
Yeah, so in their home county, Norfolk, here in the UK, there are apparently 24 McDonald's. So they rode to all of them over the course of 23 rides, totaling 1,100 miles.
That's right, yeah. So thank you, Jolly Giant, for posting this one to the GCN app. Apparently, they just had a coffee in each of them, with only a sausage and egg McMuffin in the last one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I reckon in some places, riding to every McDonald's in your county could be a lifetime's work.
Well, did you know, Dan, that there are over 13,000 McDonald's in the USA alone,
My goodness.
with over 1,000 of them in California. It's got the highest density per state. However, Dallas in Texas has the most McDonald's in a single city with 62.
Well, you learn something new every day, don't you? Yeah. Anyway, anyone from Dallas out there, if you think you can do all 62 in a single ride, we would love to hear from you. That'd be epic.
Imagine that! I'm trying to think. Do you think that you'd be in danger of bonking if you went to 62 McDonald's?
Well, if you had a coffee at everyone.
Well, if you had a
nothing
coffee,
else.
everyone, I think you might be in hospital. But like, you know, could you, if you ate 62 sausage and egg McMuffins, would you still hit the wall?
I wouldn't have thought. I mean, they must be pretty close together. I know it's a big city.
No, I'm wondering whether there's like, you know, just empty calories.
It might only be a 31k ride. 500 metres between each.
So more an eating challenge. Right. Well, anyway, let us know. Sticking with American fast food, actually, just to finish up cycling shorts, I learned from you lots after last week's show that Jersey Mike's is a sub shop. Do you know what a sub shop is? Is that like a sandwich shop? Okay, a sandwich
like
shop.
Subway.
Oh yeah. And Raising Cane's is a chicken finger shop. You know what a chicken finger shop is?
Well, I can guess what it involves.
Hopefully not fingers. I guess it's like
Well,
just
it's like fish fingers over here, isn't it?
Raising
But
Cane's
made
sells
out of
chicken. Right, okay, there you go.
Crikey.
See, I learned quite a lot from last week's
Well,
show.
I mean, that's the end of this week's Cycling Shorts. Hope you enjoyed it.
It's time now for Caption Competition, that part of the show where you get a chance to get your hands on a coveted GCN Elite water bottle. Yellow for one last week. Yeah, I think we've still got some available in the GCN shop if you fancy it. Super limited edition. Anyway, this was the photo that I gave you last week, actually. It was on my own last week.
Yeah, I saw.
It's really
I
sad.
saw that you were on your own.
Yeah.
Just before we reveal the winner, can I give you what my caption would have been?
Go on then.
Groupama FDJ manager Mark Madio reveals latest signing.
I would have said that last week, but it hadn't happened. Beergate,
that's
so that was why I
understandable
didn't
that you couldn't come up with that.
Anyway, funnily enough, D. Lloyd is the winner
Yes.
this week, but it's DJR Lloyd. That's not you, is it?
No, I would be DWL Lloyd if it was all initials.
DWL Lloyd. Really? There's a lot of L's in your name, actually. I remember
9.
that now.
Yeah, in total.
Oh, there we go. Right, anyway, Caption Competition. When they said always have 2 bottles with you on the mountain section. Sorry, that's made me chuckle. This was not what they meant. So there we go. No, I really don't think they did mean that by having 2 bottles with you. But there we go. Well done, DJR Lloyd. Get in touch and we'll get a bottle over to you.
Yeah, ideally Facebook message with your address, etc. This week's image comes from the Paris podium at the Tour de France. I will get you started. I'm coming for you out, world champion cyclocrosser next year.
Not with that technique, he won't.
No,
That is not how you carry a bicycle.
Well, he's
in
got
cyclocross.
some work to do. I'll admit that, but
Yeah.
well, yeah, that's all I've got to say. He's got some work to do.
Also, the fact that he's not even doing the World Time Trial Champs in a couple of weeks,
He's preparing for the Welter.
you would have thought you could sneak in a world title, wouldn't you?
Well, that would be quite the season.
I'd
then,
be
wouldn't it?
tempted. I mean, if I had that level of form, I'd probably enter. And maybe the World Champs road race as well, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to squeeze it all in when you're that talented.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't know. But anyway, there we go. Yeah, if you think you can better Dan's caption, even if you think you can't, you're still in with a chance of winning a coveted GCN Elite water bottle.
Yeah, leave your captions in the comments below. Just before we let you know what's coming up on GCN this week, a few comments from the last week's worth of videos. Firstly, under This Guy Hates Gravel Bikes, Can We Change His Mind? Colin Littlewood wrote, as someone who only has the money and space for one bike, my gravel bike has been perfect. 90% of my riding is on roads, albeit many of them in a poor state, but I can go off-road to have more fun and get away from the traffic. And Colin, I think, spoke for a lot of people, judging
Yeah.
by the comments under that video.
Oh, yeah, I hear that. Like, gravel bikes are amazing on the road. And then, like I say, they're mega off-road too. Although, Suru Tom said, I've got a gravel bike and a super light hardtail cross-country bike. Favourite route is 50% road, 50% gravel trails, parts of it quite bumpy. And I alternate between the 2 bikes depending on whether I want to have more fun on the smooth bits or on the bumpier bits, but both are an absolute blast. Whereas a pure road bike or a heavier full suspension mountain bike likely wouldn't be. So there we go. Yeah, I mean, when you do have the option of having both, you can see their relative advantages, can't you?
Yep,
so
exactly that. Meanwhile, under the Tour de France Femme stage preview, BK Montgomery wrote, Manon continues to show that she's the smartest GCN presenter by bringing an e-bike up an alpine climb with a pro. Well, I think it must run in the name.
Yes, I was thinking just that.
Not the only GCN presenter with the surname Lloyd who's taken an e-bike up a harsh climb. Actually, I did it on the Angleroo as well, didn't I? And there's a documentary out today, if you're watching this on Tuesday, all about the Angleroo.
There is, yeah. Spain's most fearsome climb. Didn't you take Mikel Lander out when you were on an e-bike?
I did, yeah.
Try and school him
I've
as
used
well.
an e-bike a fair amount of time.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, Dan got there first, I'm afraid. But still, yes, fair play to Manon for doing that. It made a lot of sense, actually, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right then, under we've got Mark Cavendish's power data. Can we keep up? Clement Allen said, Mr. Prime Opportunities, the title is, we got Mark Cavendish's power data. Do we have what it takes to keep up? That is good.
Very good.
We might change
Clement.
the title now, actually.
And finally, under the new Orbea first look of the Orca by Sai, R3TT Gaming 177 wrote, can we just appreciate the fact that GCN used a stick and a rock to hold this state-of-the-art bike up for the shots when they stood still?
Yep. Stick and a rock. Can't beat him. Well, you can, actually. Shadow Stands are far better. But
You forgot to take yours with you, did you?
I forgot to take mine. Our filmmaker Stefan forgot to take his as well. And then you're like, well, what do we do? Stick and a rock.
We've been stick users for a good decade now, haven't we?
We have,
They
yeah.
work surprisingly well if you get the right length and shape of stick.
That's right. And it's got to be said, it was beautifully calm. There was not a breath of wind, which...
That is the nerve-wracking thing, isn't it? When you're presenting next to one and there are gusts of wind and you see it slowly go off balance, especially if it's a pro rider's bike.
Yes. Oh my goodness me. We've got quite a big montage, I think, somewhere out the back of basically expensive bikes almost falling over and being caught at the last
Thankfully they're
possible moment.
lightweight and we can catch them.
That's
Right, on the channel this week, on Wednesday, as I mentioned, road or mountain bike pedals. We're going to let you know which ones are probably going to be right for you. And on Thursday, how to ride out of the saddle. Actually, before we move on, two riders who really know how to ride out the saddle, Adam and Simon Yates. Check this out.
Well, there you go then. I didn't realise technique was largely genetic.
No?
That's quite
It wasn't.
incredible.
That was an amazing piece of footage, wasn't it? Completely in sync.
Yeah, brilliant. There you go. Anyway, I had a lot of fun filming that video. It's such a hard thing to get right out of saddle, but when you do crack the technique, and I think the only way to crack it really is to kind of drill down into it. So anyway, hopefully you'll find that video useful. Well, on Friday, we raced the pros. Ollie had to see how long he could hold on to virtual Ashley Woolman Passio up Alpe de Zwift, and that is a cracker of a video as well.
Rather him than me.
Yep.
She's unbelievable on the climb, isn't she?
Yep. And then on Saturday, we've got beginner, amateur versus pro gravel edition. So how much difference does it make on gravel, whether you're a noob, an amateur or a pro, and also the bikes as well that they ride. And then finally on Sunday, cyclist versus runner. So who is better at the other person's discipline? We found an amazing runner who doesn't ride, and we plucked one of the many GCN presenters that's quite good on a bike but doesn't run. So who is better at the other person's discipline?
Yeah. I've done a couple of runs recently.
Have you?
You know, the weirdest thing about running is it always feels really easy for the first K for me. Like I'm really in my comfort zone, and then it just creeps up. They're only 5Ks long. So the second one I did, I averaged, I think, 4 minutes 39 per K.
Okay.
So a bit of a ways off where I was when I was running a lot, but still not too bad. I thought to myself, that's probably a bit too fast, really, given I've not been exercising much recently for my joints, etc. So for the next one, I went out slower, about 5 minutes a K.
Okay.
And by the end, it felt just as hard.
Really?
Like, it still creeps up on you. And the prospect of trying to then go 4:39 for a K, I was like, no, don't think I'd be able to do it.
Really?
Yeah, it feels no different. And whatever pace you start at in running, by the end, it feels hard.
Well, I mean, fundamentally, that's why running's not as good as cycling, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't freewheel when you're running, can you?
No.
What happens when you stop,
Yeah,
stop turning your legs over?
It's like, I've had enough of this, just stop in the field. Anyway,
There you go.
I digress. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to reading your thoughts on the Tour de France in the comment section down below.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week.